This incident happened to me last year. I was supposed to leave for work the next morning as my train was scheduled at 6 a.m. and I had already done all of my packing. I had to pay my friend back for some train tickets, so I went to the ATM and withdrew some cash. My other friend and I later went out to eat. I usually carry my wallet in my hand. I feel safer with it that way. I was having trouble juggling my wallet and my food, so I handed it over to my friend who was with me to keep it. It was almost 7, which was my hostel curfew. I asked my friend for my wallet back at that point. He said that he didn't have it. At first I thought he was joking around with me, but the next moment I see him running around tracing all the places we had been to that evening. My wallet was lost. Since I was traveling the next day, it had so much of my stuff in it already. It had my ID, my ATM card, and around $4,000 in cash in it. We went back to the food stall to inquire if the man working there had seen my wallet around. Fortunately, he did see a wallet. He picked it up and gave it to a complete stranger though. At that moment, my heart fell. I was so angry at him. How could he just give my wallet away like that? We asked him where the man went or what his contact number was, but he spoke nothing of him. The only thing he remembered was the color of his shirt. He said that he didn't have his number, but the man was a regular customer to his shop. We were trying our best to search for him, and it was already way past my curfew. I had lost all of my hope in ever finding my wallet again. But at that moment, my phone was ringing continuously. My friend, the one I was supposed to pay, kept calling me. I thought she was calling me to know where I was going to pay her. I just kept hanging her up because I didn't know how to respond. Finally though, I did pick up the call to tell her that I lost my wallet and there was no way I could pay today. Miraculously, she wasn't calling about the money. She was calling to tell me that there was a man waiting for me at the hostel to return my wallet. I had never been so happy. I felt so lucky in that moment. He refused to give my wallet to anyone other than me. He was just waiting for me back at the hostel so he could give it to me personally. I rushed back to the hostel and I thanked him. He was a noble man. I found out at 39 years of age that I was pregnant. I knew I'd be considered a high-risk pregnancy due to my age and complications from my last pregnancy over 8 years previously, so I sought out an OB/GYN immediately. By my first appointment, I was already at 2 months, so they did an ultrasound to verify my pregnancy. My husband and I are sitting in the examination room staring at a snapshot of the ultrasound on the mounted screen. We were amused by how much it resembled the mask from the movie Scream. As we sat there preoccupied by the shape and slightly confused, the nurse entered, so we asked, "Where's the baby? That looks like a Halloween mask." The nurse said, "Well, there's baby A, right here is baby B, and that right there is baby C." My face turned from one of amusement to horror. I got serious and quipped, "That's not funny." She looked at me and said, "Oh honey, I don't joke about things like this." I burst out in tears. It took some time to process, but after a couple of days I went into prepare and plan mode. I had the babies natural, no help or medical intervention, GGB. 13 years later, all 3 of them are still my babies. When I was around 9 years old, I was playing in the backyard when I heard a ground-shaking boom. I looked up and the house across the smallish field had exploded. I hopped on my bike and rode over right away. I stayed and watched in awe while a crowd gathered. Firemen had already come and sectioned it off, so I stayed behind the small barricade until the fire was eventually put out. Once everything had calmed down, I was able to see the metal skeleton of a man's truck, and the man's charred body in what used to be the garage. Apparently, he was working on his truck when the propane tanks in the garage ignited. It was May 2015. We were returning home after attending my counseling meeting at Kalinga Institute of Industrial Technology, or KIT for short. From the station, we took an auto. My mother, who is a professor, had to complete some kind of formality in her college since it was the last working day before the summer vacation. So she had to get down midway and instructed me and Dad to take care of the luggage while unloading. When we reached our apartment complex, out of sheer carelessness, we forgot to unload one of the bags that was kept in the back seat of the auto. The auto driver went along their way after collecting the money. After 10 minutes or so, my mother returned and on checking the luggage, she found the bag missing. After inquiring us, we were both left shocked. All of us were very tensed because of the incident, and since the bag contained a good amount of cash and important documents. After half an hour, someone rang the doorbell. I opened the door and the security guard of our apartment was standing there. He said that one auto driver was waiting in the garage with a bag. We were overjoyed on hearing this. My dad and I went downstairs and found the same auto driver standing with the bag. We thanked him and my dad offered him some money as a mark of thanksgiving, which he refused to accept, saying, Paisa sab kush nahi hota sahab, or the translation, money isn't the thing I'm here for, sir. This incident taught me that no matter how much we crib about dishonesty in society, honest people still exist. They're like the tiny ray of hope on a dark, cloudy night. While going through a particular road yesterday, I started telling my daughter how I stayed in this area for a year, 16 years back. On an instinct, I asked my husband if we could go through the apartment that I once stayed in. The roads had changed and the whole area had been developed beyond recognition, but thanks to Google Maps, we finally found the place where I had lived. I also recall a friend of mine who was very close to me. In these many years, I just remembered her name. I had completely forgotten how her face looked like. She and I had danced at various festival competitions, and she cried her eyes out when I had left to go back to Ahmedabad. Should I go and find out if she still lives here? I thought to myself. My husband urged me to go and casually ask for her. Would she remember me? I doubted. After my husband's repeated insistence, I went ahead, hands trembling as I reached the flat. She answered the door herself. Before I could even say anything, she flew up in surprise and asked me if I was Shafali. I just nodded. Our reunion was beautiful. She grabbed me by my shoulders and said that she was trying to find me all over social media. Because she couldn't recall my last name, she had no luck though. I was thrilled. We spoke for an hour, and I called my husband and daughter into the flat, and I met her husband and son too. It was pure luck that she had come to her maternal house for lunch on a weekend and I showed up at the exact same time. While leaving with a heavy heart, I told her to keep in touch, to which she said, I knew you would come one day. I'm glad we're in touch again. We both just smiled. Meeting a once close friend after 16 years was quite the unexpected thing for me. I went on vacation years ago. I left my wife with her parents and family and decided to take the rental car for a drive. I ended up in a pawn store a few hours away. I asked the pawnbroker what he had that was a bargain. He pulled out a nice strand of pearls, but I could see that he had a lot of pearl strands in the desk drawer and in his safe. He offered to sell the one strand to me at a great price. I said, what if I buy them all? He said that there were 400 strands total. We ended up doing the deal and I loaded 400 strands of pearls in my car and drove back to the lake house. I paid $10 a strand for the 18-inch strands and up to $40 a strand for the 86-inch strands. Except for the large endless strands, all the rest had 14-karat gold clasps on them. The clasps at the time were $20 each wholesale, so I knew I couldn't go wrong with this deal. Anyway, I was selling the pearl strands for $99 to $150 each, and they were still a bargain at those prices. A VP of my bank where I worked came in to buy a strand. He liked it but wanted something, quote, better for his wife. I said I have just the thing for him in my office. I went and put one of the same $99 necklaces in a $15 wooden box and took it out to him. I slowly opened the beautiful box in front of him, and then I said, "Is this more like what you're looking for?" He loved the pearl strand in the box. He said, "How much is this one?" "This one is $400, I replied. "Sold," he said. So basically, I sold a $15 wooden display box with a $99 pearl necklace for $400. That was the day I discovered that perception is everything. I grew up in an area where panhandlers were rare. You just didn't see people outside with signs asking for help or food or anything like that. So when I moved to Florida, I was honestly baffled by it. So my wife and I are on our way home and at a red stoplight. There are 2 cars in front of us, and in the right lane there are 2 more, and a silver van beside us. This hoary old homeless fellow comes up right into the intersection and starts asking people for money right at the car windows. I'm just blown away. Then, lo and behold, the man in the car in front of me rolls his window down. I'm like, well, that's nice, because this guy seriously looked like the old man from Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. Honestly seemed like he could use the help, and I had nothing to give him. Except the man who rolled his window down obviously said something fucked up to this old guy, and what ensued was, in the eyes of an uncultured hayseed like me, a social bloodbath. Now, recall that silver van in the right lane beside me? He's watching too, watching this homeless guy repeatedly flip the man in the car ahead of me off, screaming random shit at him and punctuating each and every sentence with a "fuck you." The smartass in front of me rolls his window up, and I still wish I had heard what he had said to make that man so mad. But it gets even better. The homeless man starts to walk away. He's so pissed off that his natty old beard is swaying with each and every angry stomp. And then the guy in the silver van beside me honks his horn. Oh, the moment was beyond words. The homeless man thought that the smartass in the car in front of me was the one honking at him. I'm watching transfixed in bemused horror as this homeless guy turns around and starts a dead fucking run back to that car, screaming and holding both middle fingers up like they were a pair of chrome-plated .45s in a Denzel Washington movie. He screams at the guy's window, curses him some more, leans back and howls at the sky, and then goes to walk away. The light's still red at this point, and I look nervously at the silver van beside me. The driver is bent over the steering wheel, fucking dying laughing. Surely he's not... Yep, he honks his horn again. I laughed out loud, not so much in amusement as in sheer disbelief. Ancient Mariner turns around again, his spine curved back and his chest pushed out, cords of sheer rage bunching up on his neck. He didn't run this time. He sauntered up to that jackass's car like his balls were going to get there first, and proceeds to hurl spit at the guy's driver's side window. Just over and over, spitting, calling up more phlegm, and spitting again. I swear to all that's right and true, I would not have been the least bit surprised if he hadn't run out of spit and just started licking the damn window out of spite. He walks away, gets 2 steps, turns around and starts howling, cursing, and holding his middle fingers up again. The light finally turns green, and it's like the fucking Indy 500 for every car in the city block. That ancient lord of the intersection is just standing there in the median, so angry I don't even think he was making words anymore. The silver van honks his horn again and is still laughing so hard I don't think he could even breathe. Everyone burns ass out of there, and my wife turns to me and sums it all up with wide eyes and an amazed expression. That was the longest fucking red light ever. My friend and I were traveling around Japan. We spoke close to no Japanese except maybe a couple of phrases. On one particular night, we had stayed out quite late and decided to take a shortcut back to where we were staying. It was raining and all the restaurants were closed near our hotel. My friend was agitated and just wanted to get back to the hotel, but I was really hungry and had seen a little restaurant sign on the side of the road we walked down. I convinced her to go back. I should say my friend isn't very adventurous with food, so we'd been eating mostly ramen in very touristy areas for the last week or so. Walking into the restaurant was one of the most intimidating things I did the whole time I was there. The place had absolutely 0 foreigners in there, and it was tiny. It probably would have only fit 10, maybe 15 people max sitting around a bar that circled a grill. So, all eyes were on these 2 wet Australian girls that walked in. Initially we froze, but the chef just waved for us to sit down. The menu was all in Japanese. Everyone was still looking at us. I'm feeling so awkward and thinking that I had made a mistake bringing us here when the man next to us turns and asks us in English if we wanted help ordering. Bless him, he helped us order our food with a big smile. And then when my friend tried to order us 2 beers in Japanese, everyone laughed and clapped with the kindest faces. After that, everyone was so friendly to us. The chef took a liking to us and laughed so hard every time we tried to order another beer in Japanese. The food was amazing, and we had such a good experience there. When we got out to leave, one of the waiters/chef working there called out loudly to us as we were walking out. I was worried that we had forgotten to pay something, but he was running towards us with umbrellas. He wanted to make sure that we didn't get wet walking home. We tried to refuse, but he pushed them on us, smiling from ear to ear. It was the nicest experience I had in Japan, and I'm so glad we braved it and went back to that restaurant. I never expected it would turn out like that.